the performance of the executive arm of government in the year 2012. Well, yes, this year. And so, so many matters. Perhaps you could also just send a tweet or two while the program goes on, as always, and raise some of the salient matters you've got on your chest. Okay, Dr. Okupe joins us now. He's the SA Public Affairs to the President. Thank you for coming this morning.
Merry Christmas. I'm glad to be here and to see you guys flesh and blood. It's quite a while.
Well, yeah, it is. And so we'll start off with, of course, you know, if you take a look at some of the reports that we've done, reviewing the year, the economy, judiciary, politics, the year started on a turbulent note, as a matter of fact, where everyone had to hit the streets. They were wondering, what's the federal government thinking? How could you take us by surprise? How could you do all of those? And then we went on into the year. But how would you say that so far it has turned out?
Well, it's been a very eventful year. Like you said, started with a lot of heat and agitation, you know, rightly so. The position of government, you know, on the issue of subsidy, and most unemotional people and people, you know, economists and all that, is that, in fact, worldwide, that hydrocarbon subsidy really should not be something that should be encouraged. But in our own peculiar situation in Nigeria, I've been somebody who supported the removal of subsidy from petroleum products, and I've had cause to interview people, talk to people, even very highly educated people. They agree that, you know, this is something that is probably not very okay for our economy. But what people say is that this is the only benefit that the average Nigerian gets, you know, from the economy itself, you know, from the wealth of the nation, and that is why people are very, very passionate about it. And
you agree with them?
Well, I mean, it is true that, you know, I mean, the ordinary man, you know, gets a direct benefit from the commonwealth of the country. You understand? Although that distorts the economy, but, you know, you cannot rule in absentia or rule, you know, without considering what the majority of your people want. You know, if this is what Nigerians want, so government says, okay, we back off. So, well, that is as far as our subsidy is concerned. A lot has happened, you know, a lot has happened during the year. You know, people were skeptical that whether President Jonathan will be able to fulfill his promises, you know, his campaign promises. Gladly enough, stage by stage, you know, it appears as if most of the promises that have been made are being fulfilled gradually. In terms of power, okay.
We'll come to those and take a look at some of them very closely too. But in terms of the way government handled the fuel subsidy protest and all of those matters, is it impossible for government to admit that it made some mistakes with the way and manner with which it went about that one?
I don't, you know, I am not being pompous or irrational if I say that I don't agree that government made a mistake.
If they did, would they admit they did?
Why not? You know, a responsible government, you know, if you do something wrong and you come to the realization, you should agree that you made a mistake. But that particular situation was not a mistake. From the government's perspective,
why do you say it wasn't a mistake?
You know, it is obvious. You know, over the year, I mean, during the year, we now saw it.
I was going to, you know, ask if that was your view, or you think that will be the government's view as well.
Which view?
The view that you don't think the government made a mistake.
I don't think government made a mistake.
That is your thought on it.
I think this is government position. I don't think it was an error. It was not an error. But you see, government bowed down, which is, you know, that's a different thing. Government bowed down to the wishes of the people, which is a responsible thing to do in a democracy. So it was not an error, and it was not even an error of judgment, because you see, in later months, we now saw how people, you know, how much money was being misappropriated due to subsidy. If I thought that Nigerians would feel that, if this is what is really going on, you know, let us prevent this error by actually removing the subsidy. Because I personally, I'm not talking about government now, instead of government, you know, spending 1 point something trillion naira, you know, on subsidy, and we are not really very sure, you know, how far it is going, I'd rather buy the fuel at a higher price and that money is back into government coffers, and we all spend it together.
But some of the position or perspective of a number of Nigerians out there at the time we spoke to, a lot of them, they felt nobody likes wastage, for instance, and so it came across as the government was passing the buck. If you say this is the leakage, this is what's going on, why don't you plug that leakage or deal with that first and foremost, as opposed to just taking it away and letting everybody else
let
suffer
me,
for that?
compare two institutions. Look at the Ministry of Agriculture, all right, and look at the Ministry of Petroleum. Now, forever, because of the fertilizer purchase program of the government, there was a perennial leakage in that sector. Where there's a gradient of, profit, people will always find a way to exploit the situation. It's not just Nigeria.
So what did the government do?
So what government did? Government removed its hand from importation of fertilizer, and that was the end of that. That was the end of that problem. The crisis and the corruption in that area is dead and buried, finished. Also, if government removes its hand, I'm not saying government will, or if government removes its hand from, if we actually allow anybody and everybody who wants to bring petrol into Nigeria, and they bring petrol and they sell at competitive prices and all that, then government does not have to say how many tankers did you move today, how many did you take to Maduguri, what is the difference, I pay you. Wherever there are opportunities, people, it is difficult. People, businessmen, it's not just Nigerians, Indians, Lebanese, Americans, everybody tries to, maximize opportunities for themselves.
That's
the thing to
nature.
do, yeah, the thing to do is to remove the template by which people can exploit.
But in trying to remove all of that...
yeah, just 1 minute. I think the argument then from a host of Nigerians was that the subsidy we get from the government on petrol is about the last thing we can feel directly in our
on the same
pockets.
side, that's what I said.
No, what I'm saying is...
That's what I said, just what I just said.
It's the last thing, because you're saying that Nigerians should have looked at it and seen that if this is the amount of corruption going on in that sector,
I thought.
we would have said, okay, maybe, we should pay the money and then let the difference be in the coffers of government.
Correct.
For us to be able to spend it together.
Yes.
But a host of Nigerians believe that is the last thing they get from the government.
So that's why the government backed off.
See.
That's why the government backed off.
But did the government understand that?
Of course. Otherwise, it should not have backed off. It was a major policy. It was a major thing that was started, on the 1st of the year. And then, after various representation and considerations and consultations, paying due obeisance to the points you have just raised, government backed off.
But doesn't it see that is a problem, in the sense that if the people are saying the last thing we can feel from any government is subsidy money in our pockets, that is the only thing we can feel so far from a government, isn't that a problem?
No, it is not true to say that is the only thing you can feel from government, because mind you, you're having electricity, constant electricity, you're having water.
Which is not constant yet.
Yeah, we're moving towards it.
For some people have, some
don't even have it all.
No, this is a very large country. It's a very large country.